All right, welcome back to the Shop Class Podcast. Tonight we got a little roundtable discussion about the how to support shop teachers, and for instance, like some programs you need money because you don't have enough tools and you don't have enough equipment, but some programs you honestly just need support from the industry, maybe in training or in maybe in like visiting. Someone comes in and runs your equipment with you, or maybe just connection as far as like hooking up alumni with positions. So we could kind of go around the room. Just before we hit record, we were just talking about CNC routers, and they're difficult because not everybody knows how to write code. So here's an example that Duke was talking about, Two Moose Design. And in this situation, he's doing like really complicated stuff. What is he doing there? He's making an inlay? Is that an inlay?
Inlay. Yeah, he's doing an inlay. So that's an end grain cutting board, and then it looks like they cut the male and the female part with their router, and then they'll just put glue in there and then inlay that in. So it looks like they're cutting some type of draft angle on that to make it easier to go together.
Now, it looks like there's a design inside that knife? Is that just by chance, or is that because you're not going to see it once they put it in there? Why is there a design?
Well, there's so it's proud. So that they're cutting the female right there. No, that's the male. That's the male right there. That's the male part.
Okay.
So there's the draft angle they're cutting on there.
Right.
And then they're gonna inlay that, and then they'll probably run it through a sander or a planer, and then like the white part that's sticking up high, they'll get rid of that, and then it'll be just left in whatever glued in.
Okay, we're waiting for the follow-up. So
the design is the actual important part there.
Yeah. Got it. So like as you see it right here, there's an actual design in there. But then once you sand off that layer, it'll pop up, but you'll still have the inlay of all the cavities. Is that right?
Yeah, of the white on the other cavities. Yeah,
that's pretty complex. I like that. That's cool.
Well, what's actually cool about that is that it's an end grain cutting board, but then the other inlay part is also end grain. So that's pretty neat. That's really neat how they did that.
As opposed to the long side of it.
Like long grain or side grain or face grain.
Why is it good to have the end grain? Just looks cool, right?
Well, you don't want to mix end grain and edge grain or, those orientations, because what's going to happen is wood is going to expand and contract differently in different orientations. So like if you inlaid something in there and it was like, say, long grain or, edge grain, face grain, that would expand differently than the end grain, and it potentially could crack the cutting board, or the inlay could crack. So it's, you have to understand the natural properties of wood in order to do that. So if you're putting in end grain into end grain, it hypothetically should expand and contract the same rate.
Even if it's a different species, or no?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I guess
different species expand and contract in different amounts, but with this, it's such a small piece, and it shouldn't be too bad.
Yes. Yeah. Rafi's right. Oak and maple and cherry and poplar and walnut and Purple Heart or whatever you're using, they do all expand and contract at different rates. But if you have some are much smaller or lower than others.
Interesting.
Now, Ron, go to the video before that.
Okay. Right here?
Yeah.
All right.
I gotta wait a little bit to the end. But you talk about grabbing a kid's attention. Now, kids in my class, first time they're in, see these tools and machines, so they're excited as it is, right? But talk about an attention grabber. Wait till you see this.
Okay. he's got a sled, right? Or no, this is a.
Here's his router.
Oh, like that's so cool.
He's controlling his router with a video game controller.
Oh man.
Now you get kids to do that, you got them hooked.
Yeah. Dude, that's great. Yeah, so now imagine we contact, what's this guy's name? I don't know.
Moose design.
All right.
That's what I need for someone to show me how to take video game controllers and control the XYZ axis for my laser engraver CNC routers with an Xbox controller.
See,
It's
yeah.
probably just a Arduino and a shield or a interface that you can use, to be honest with you. That's probably what it is.
Check out Timmy with the electronics. He's doing it.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
So basically this is what the question is tonight, is that, how can, what do the shop teachers need? And, obviously people say like, oh, you need money, but you probably just need support. So it's like, okay, maybe somebody does a presentation. Maybe it's normal to have the industry come into the class and do a presentation, or even if it's video, just make something specific for that teacher. That I think it's about building that relationship, because if I had someone from the industry checking in on us, maybe at the beginning of the project, the middle of the project, and the end. Like for instance, Timmy, you're making these these awesome, the awesome bowls and whatnot. And imagine if there was somebody checking in the beginning, and then they saw the progress, and then they checked it out at the end, and then the kids got a chance to present. I think that would, in my shop, that would raise the excitement level, because they're not necessarily working for me. Some of the kids are inspired by me, but not all of them. And then they're inspired by each other, and they all feed off each other's energy and whatnot. So, imagine, who, if you had a chance, Tim, who would you want to be a part of your project?
That's an interesting question. I mean, and I explain this. I try to explain this to my students, and this is not a class. This is usually never a class discussion. This is always a one-on-one discussion, or a very, very small group instruction. And when the kids ask you, who is a better woodworker in class, you or the other teacher. So, for example, I always say I can't answer that question because, X teacher in department might be good at scroll saw. X teacher in the department might be really good at CNC. X teacher in the department is really good at, design work, and X teacher is really good with lathe. So you can't compare and, look and say, well, that person's a better woodworker, because they're specializing in one thing. And I say, in the long run, the problem with being a woodshop teacher is I have to know a little about a lot of different areas. So I have to know a little bit about carving. I have to know a little bit about hand tools. I have to know a little bit about, manufacturing. I have to know a little bit about machine, theory and machine operation. I have to know stuff about wood turning, wood burning, scroll saw, insert any area of woodworking into there. I have to know at least something about it in order to push the kid in the way they need to be pushed. For example, if we're doing joinery, I'm not focusing on joinery, but there's other woodworkers that are focused on joinery. That's their thing. And I say it's very hard to say what is your specialty or who is good at a certain thing in the classroom. And I think now there's another element of that is this whole epoxy revolution, where Now kids want to do this epoxy stuff, and you have to ask the kids, or the kids ask you questions about it, and you're like, listen, I don't know. So, would I love to teach a class on epoxy? Well, yeah, but the problem is you got to know a little bit about to steer them in the right direction. So that's the tough thing about it, is you got to know a little bit about everything in order to get the kids motivated.
This looks awesome.
Right.
Well, that was your buddy Dan.
Yeah, he's into it.
Yeah.
So
So that's my explanation when I talk with the kids, more on a one-to-one level. The other problem is who you're asking me who would be great to bring in, Well, one person in my class, it would be great to bring a cabinet maker in. Another person in my class, it'd be great to bring in a wood turner. Somebody else might be good to bring in a scroll saw person. So somebody else might be great with a carver. So the problem is you can't just bring somebody in, because sometimes you're going to either, get on the boat or be off the boat with these kids. You can't get them all. That's the problem. And in an ideal world, you would bring another shop teacher in.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. That's unavoidable thought that comes up, is that sometimes, when they would ask me, hey, do you want to write a grant this year? We could get some money. And I'm like, does the grant, can we buy another teacher? And they're like, no, you can't. You got to get equipment. And I'm like, I got equipment, We got equipment. We need more people helping out. But I don't think you have to choose one. And it all depends. I think this is just about, imagine if you were an industry, let's say you're a supplier of epoxy, or you're a supplier of routers, or you're a contractor in the area, or you're like an iron worker in the area, and you were like, well, I wonder what the shop teachers need. This is your chance to be like, well, I honestly need you to come in and give us a demo. Or, in my school, someone coming into the room is like a bit of a paperwork nightmare.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So, but I would say, and obviously, like after school hours, I just kind of like, if someone wants to come by and see the shop, no big deal. If they're not like there officially, it's just, you could just kind of like, not school hours or whatever, but they could come in, they could see the place. It's not a big deal, But if they're coming there to like operate equipment, this is like a whole level of hoop jumping. Not that it needs to be, but that's the way the schools are. So then you say, oh, well, okay, what's easier? I need equipment, or we need money. But to be honest, like, I don't even know what I would do with the money. I mean, you could buy another, like, I need more soldering stations and maybe more welding stations and maybe a booth or that. But the problem is I'm out of room, to be honest. I'm out of room. Like, I'm packed. So I don't really need equipment or money in my particular program. There was times where we needed money. Oh my God. I would need like support, and that could be in the form of like, they just do a virtual meeting and they just literally get on, and we have now we've got this cool thing. Have you guys heard of light box or box light? It's like you know what a Promethean board is? Okay. Forget it. Let me start over. Just imagine a phone or a tablet, but it's like 6 feet wide, like just a huge phone, touch screen. And we have one of these on wheels now, which is like amazing. So imagine the person there, they can see us, we could see them, we could touch stuff, and we could talk to them, and I could roll it around the classroom and they could talk to the students. That would be like amazing. And so really, I just need to invite industry in and let industry know that this is their chance. They can talk to the students and they can support them. Can we do a project with them? Maybe, maybe not. But I think the biggest problem is that the students don't know that we're not operating a bubble. That to me is the worst thing. We're operating in a training ground. This is the farm system for all these companies. We're the farm system. So they really should send scouts. They should treat it like a farm system. They should make sure, hey, oh, you're not throwing the ball correctly, or hey, if you worked on it like this, they should talk to the trainer, which is us, you know. So I would just want support, you know.
But
Can
why-
you not allocate? Sorry, you can't allocate if you do get a grant, you can't allocate it to paying a specialist or a professional in a specific area to come in for a few hours or a day even. I mean, or whatever, for a class, to teach a class,
I don't
you
know.
know,
That's a
and
possibility.
training.
That's a possibility. You know what it is? You get to a point, I'm going to be completely honest, you get to a point where you get lazy about jumping through all the hoops. So you just order some equipment, and the equipment takes 6 months to show up, if at
Right.
all. Like, for instance, I ordered something last year. Oh my God. It's like,
So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
The school in Yonkers, in White Plains, that I substitute taught in their makerspace 2 years ago, before COVID, 2.5 years ago, and it was an amazing experience. I taught there for 3.5 weeks, and I taught a whole unit. It was a lot of fun for me. It was my first real teaching gig, and I've been in touch. I became good friends with the teacher I replaced and the head of the department who hired me. You know, we're friends, and I come back every now and then as a guest or to help them with things. Recently, he asked me to come in for 2 weeks to just clean up and organize the shop, just to organize it. And he said, I have a grant. A parent gave me a grant, said, whatever you need for the shop, spend it however you see. So he hired me for 2 weeks, you know, just to do that, to organize. You know, I'm making him cubbies to organize stuff in, and organizing his screw bins and all that, all the mess. You know, and he
sounds
said to me,
amazing.
you're not allowed. He said to me, you're not allowed to help students, which was amazing. But of course, you can't not help students. They all know me, so they all come to me and ask me questions. How do you do this? How should I cut that? You know, and anyway, it's a lot of fun, and I'm having a great time doing it. But hopefully, I'll be there again next week as my second week with them. But
keep in mind, this is
what?
okay. So basically, you come in,
Yeah.
they hire you. There's probably no hoops, right? It's literally just, here's the time, show up.
So because I already taught there, I have a full faculty ID for the school. So I drive up to the security guard at the gate, and he kind of recognizes me every time, you know, after time passes, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know you." I say, "Yeah, I'm here for Dr. Aviv," and he goes, "Oh yeah, okay, no problem." And I flash my ID, and he goes, "Okay, go in, brother, no problem." You know, so there's really no red tape for me. There's like, I don't even need to. Now I need to just fill out a form that I'm fully vaxxed and all that stuff, but you know, and declare that I have no symptoms. But that's the only red tape that I have to pass at the moment. But yeah, I mean, Tim, this is actually ties into something that you were talking about before. The way I discovered the school was we went on a parent on a high school tour, right, for my son. And I turned the corner into a hallway, and I look through. There's a cut through the wall, and there's a plexiglass wall window there. And I look through, and I see a shop. My jaw drops, and I go, "Oh my God!" And I go see if the door's open, and the door opens, and there's a student there, and she goes, "Oh, come in here, come see our makerspace." And she starts explaining to me, "This is a table saw," and I'm like, "Yes, I know what a table saw is," and this is our drill press, and I'm like, I'm just being patient with her, and then I turn and I go, what is Jimmy's anvil doing here? There was an anvil, this big white anvil that I recognized from Jimmy's early YouTubes, and actually I've seen it in his shop, in his old shop in New York. There was an anvil there, and I was like, what is it doing here? And she goes, oh, he's the rest is a good friend of the head of the department, this Dr. Aviv. So I go over to Dr. Aviv, and I go, how do you know Jimmy? And he goes, do you really know Jimmy? I said, okay, long story short, without the throwing off of too much about that. we became good friends because of that. And so what happened, Tim? Sorry, this is how it ties into your to answering your question.
Yeah.
Students came over to Dr. Aviv and said to him, "How do we do this?" And he said, "I don't know. I'm a biologist. Go do research." And they went on YouTube and they found this guy and they brought this YouTube to the teacher, to Dr. Aviv, and they said, "This guy, Jimmy DiResta, is doing exactly what we want to do." And he said, "Okay, so reach out to him, see if he'll answer you." And they sent him an email. He sent a reply, "Have Teach contact me," which is such a Jimmy wording. And this was before he was a YouTube sensation as big as he is now, and he had more time on his hands. And this Dr. Aviv hired him to come and develop the whole makerspace.
It's awesome. They
And
hired
and it
Jimmy
was this
DiResta
and
at
it
the
was this
school.
yeah, they hired Jimmy DiResta. He was already known, but not quite as known as he is today. And it was this crazy circle of life for me because I remembered, like, all of a sudden, after this whole process, I remembered 6 years before that, he told me about the fact that he was working in this Jewish school, and he was telling me because I'm Jewish, and he was giving me like this background. Oh, that's my really old shop.
Oh yeah.
That's
Well,
my
so basically, yeah, like you're describing like a dream situation. If I had a bit budget and I could say, "Oh man, like if I just need to
right,
help
but
around here for about a week, that would be amazing."
but that's what I'm saying. Like, if you get a grant, you could hopefully be able to have the permission, quote unquote, to allocate it how you want and say, "You know what? I'll reach out to Rafi and see if he'll come and teach a class how to do resin pours, for example, or how to do some basic joinery."
I wonder if that's possible.
I don't know how it is in public schools.
Yeah, public
In,
school is a lot tighter.
private schools, it's a lot easier to get
Yeah.
that done.
It's like a whole thing.
But
Hey, Rafi, can you teach me how to find Thor's hammer?
Yeah, don't run it over with your car.
but my question is, yeah, whether it's a grant or whether it's a teacher approaching somebody and saying, "Hey, would you be interested in coming in my classroom?" Why is it that you have to jump through these hoops to bring somebody in? If you're the teacher, okay, and you're saying to somebody, "I believe this person's a good person to come in to my classroom," why do I have to jump through the hoops to really explain that? And
You're
why
right.
do I have to jump through the hoops and
Well, I always
figure out what has to happen? Why can't I just say to an administrator or say to my supervisor, say, "I want this guy to come in, get him here"? And it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I agree. I always have a joke about it. I always ask, why are public schools so private? Yeah, I mean they're very private.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of things that I would do with my class that I would believe, I honestly believe it'd be truly beneficial to the students, but I don't want to go through the hoops on the back end. I don't want to try to figure out the scheduling. I don't want to have to collect money. I don't want to have to, allocate this and then deal with the board office, because some of that administrative stuff is just so mundane that I just want to teach with the students, and I just want to do what I do with the students.
Well, hopefully, through these conversations, we pop the bubble. And that's kind of what the Shop Class podcast is about popping that public school shop class bubble and getting the conversation. So now, Rafi has, no connection to my school, and he's like, "Hey, why can't you do this?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." And he's probably right. It's just a matter of me looking into it. And then, yeah, I might have to jump through maybe 5 more hoops than he does, but it's probably possible because they do bring in speakers. Peter says put a pin in it, right? And it's probably possible.
It shouldn't be any different than bringing in a speaker, like you said. It's exactly the same kind of concept. It's just a specialist in a craft.
Yeah, and to be honest, part of it's my fault. Even a field trip is kind of a hassle, So you're just like, and then that you're effective in the classroom, so you just sort of like, I'm not going to speak for other people, but I know that I just stick to it. And the kids are like, hey, let's go on a field trip. And you're like, oh, geez. You got to call the bus guy. You got to get permission, and you really got to jump through all these hoops, So
you got to fill out the paperwork like 3 months ahead of time.
Yeah. And then you got to ride the bus with them, and it's like, oh my God.
And then you got to ask, and then you get asked questions for why did you submit this form? Is there student interest? Is there, what is the purpose of the trip? And why are you deciding to go here as compared to somewhere else? And, you get all these other administrative questions that are asked of you. And it's like, I just don't want to invest my time in this.
Yeah. Well, so like at the risk of sounding negative, so let's turn it a little around. I think that, to be fair, it's about choosing battles. So like, for instance, it's not like, oh, I don't want to do that or I can't do it. It's just that there's only so much time in the day. So my battles are chosen with like equipment choices or project choices. And then, if I choose to go on a field trip, well, then I'm not going to do this other thing, so there's only so much you can juggle, to be fair. And then also on top of that, at public school, you got to go through all these like training sessions and meetings, staff meetings that are unrelated, So let's see. Now,
no, you're right. I mean, you are definitely right. You really are right. Like, you either address your, what you can spend your time on now versus what am I going to get the most out of my students? Out of all that prep work to get the field trip set up, are the kids really going to get a lot out of that? Well, yeah, they'll get, if you set a rubric or whatever, they may get 80% out of that. But I can just not do that and then maintain my classroom, and they can get more out of my classroom and get 100% out of that.
Yeah.
So, it's like you said, like, where do you want to invest the time? I can invest all this time on trying to plan a trip and get this in or bring this person in and this and that, which will take away from my prep time. Or I can prep for my class and then do my job.
Yeah, it's about choosing battles. Now, interestingly, I took a different type of right before COVID, I took a different type of field trip, which was a game changer. I actually brought my class to go visit another shop class. I went to Livingston to see Dave Richards. And these kids said something to me, which, I believe them. They said it was the best field trip they ever been on. And I was like, really? And they said, absolutely. And I think it's because they got to see that their level of skill was either sometimes on par or above this other class. And so like some of my kids knew how to weld at that point, and then some of the kids at Livingston didn't. And so they're, wow. So they taught kids, like one kid was teaching the other kid how to weld. And then vice versa. Some of these kids knew how to do mechanics, and then they showed my kids, and they actually had like a much more engaging field trip. And they were stoked. They were so excited. And then COVID hit, and then shut down everything. We went remote, and
yeah, then we actually regressed.
Yeah, enthusiasm went, But getting back on the positive side, so let's say the paperwork is too much, and you could do that. Okay, but what would you want from industry? And and we're just looking at ideas right now. Let me just pull in.
So is this more like a, hey, on the down low, the industry approaches you and says, what could you use? And then all of a sudden, then next thing you know, here's your donation.
Well, not that easy, but I mean, that could happen. Industry's looking to support shop classes. Shop teachers are looking for support. Some people, it could be really simple, like, hey, we just need money for our program. And so that's like a grant or whatever. And then, some people, need support. I think I need more connections as far as like people visiting virtually and checking in on our projects. So I don't know, Tim, it's not like, oh, hey, if you say the word, you're going to get a laser cutter or something like that. It's not like that. But if you know what you want, it could happen. That's what's going on.
But I think that the companies should be able to support school shops better. Like, for example, in this school, we have a laser machine. I think it's like a $10,000 laser machine, and I said it would be great if the company could send their technician to tune it up and give us a tutorial. And they said it costs $1,000. And I was like, whoa, like just that, that the company should be able to send out a representative to train the teachers how to use the machine properly, how to tune it up properly, how to clean, how to change out the filters, and all these things that, basic maintenance. Yes, I could do all the research but still having a professional guy from the company come and teach the 3, 4, 5 teachers how to do it right, is amazing, and a school shouldn't have to pay $1,000 for that, and companies should see the value in, the hundreds of students going through that classroom, seeing that brand and going, oh, you know what? You want a laser? Hey, we have this laser in our school. I recommend you look into that. So there is value in that. They're building their own following.
Yeah.
In doing that. But some companies do help a little bit, Inventables, which this is not a promotion for them because I don't love the company in general, the machine and everything else. But I have a CNC from Inventables, and I actually convinced them to give me the teacher's discount, even though I couldn't show them email. I don't have a school email, but I did have the ID. So I sent them, I said, in the capacity of my job, I didn't need an email address, so they didn't give me one. But here's a picture of my ID. Here's a picture, and I included my schedule with it. This was back when I was teaching, and they gave me the Pro for free, which is great. That's wonderful, and I could help students understand how to use the machines. But that's easel. That's their proprietary software, so I don't need to do any programming and all the stuff you were talking about before.
I agree that the training should be like a free support thing. You buy the product, fine, but the training should be ready, available. And I'll give you an example. I started using Onshape, which is basically SolidWorks but online. Okay, and I needed it quick because we went back to remote. I used it over remote, but then they improved it, and then I didn't understand how to use the new version. And they've got this teacher portal that allows you to have a little more access and control over what the students do. It's easy for grading and all that stuff. And I didn't know how to set it up, and I need it like this. Teachers need turnkey solutions. It's nice to learn. Obviously, that's what shop teachers do. We figure out how to do stuff. You get an old machine back up and running. But I needed turnkey because this is a software thing. They went online with me while I was on the portal, and then they brought it in as a video chat. And the guy was like, okay, click over here, go over here. Do you see that? Does that make sense to you? I'm like, yeah. And he gave me like a free hour, got me up and running, and it worked out. Hey, see you later, Winston. All right, man. And so he got me up and running, and now we use it all the time. And the same thing is true for our 3D printers. The 3D printers that had better support, they're the ones that we use. The ones with less support, it just, what happens is one or two parts break. And then if that teacher is not an enthusiast for that particular printer, it's going to go in the trash,
Right.
even if they spent money on it. You know,
Sure.
so the support should be free. I agree, and it should be ready available. You know, so you know that's kind of like I agree with that. Let me bring in Mark Willie here. He's been putting stuff in the chat. He's saying great examples of support, Rafi, and let's see, what was the other thing he had here?
But you know, to Ron, to I guess to double back on what you just said. Like when we got our CNC router, in part of the contract that we signed with the router company to get the machine, they provided you X amount of service for that. Not service, but I mean like trainings.
Yeah.
But you know, I almost feel like sometimes they play the card. Oh, we're going to give you 2 days worth of training. Well, that their 2 days worth of training is a morning and then an afternoon, and then so they're kind of sideswiping. Yeah, you're getting 2 days of training. You're getting a morning session, and then you're getting an afternoon session. So it's really 1 day. You follow me?
A lot of these guys are the salesmen, and then the tech guy they bring with them. So they're flying on the seat of their pants too. Like you need someone to come in that knows the machine, that uses the machine.
And also the timing is important. So a lot of shop teachers, we have to deal with what they call PD, professional development. And what happens is basically like once a month we have to go to these meetings.
Yeah, it's one of the best tunes.
Yeah, no problem. And we have to go to these meetings, and listening to someone talk about, let's say, a Promethean board, you know, and you're like, you have a bearing that you need to fix on a machine downstairs, and they don't even know what a bearing is. You don't know what they're doing with their Promethean board. You're just like, oh my God. And you have to sit through it. But because you're part of this contract and you have to do it. So relevant PD should be like, you know, the stuff that's pertinent to what you're trying to accomplish at the time you're trying to accomplish it. Obviously that's ideal, but man, you know, sometimes I'll have someone come by and like, I'll say, I don't understand how to, you know, do this thing. And they're like, and they, you know, and then they absolutely show me what's needed. Well, that's super important at the time. But these PDs, oh God, they have us sit through hours and hours and hours of irrelevant PD. So for instance, let's say the district buys a bunch of 3D printers, but you are not ready to use those 3D printers, or that was not the printer you were going to use. Now you got to sit through the whole day and you're just like, oh man, you know, and it's not relevant. So it's got to be relevant. You know, I think that's a pretty obvious one, right? Yeah. So we have Mark Willie here. Mark, what's happening?
I love this dialogue. Each of the examples and each of the things that you guys deal with working and not working or involving more work is truly eye-opening to me. And I do have a question because I like where Tim was taking this. I like everything Rafi shared. Tim, is it allowed for volunteers?
Oh, you muted yourself by accident. Go ahead, Mark.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
How long ago did I drop off?
Is it allowed to bring volunteers?
Yeah. Are volunteers allowed to help and help form a list or check off a list for a school, or is that not allowed or more hassle than worth?
I guess you can look at it from two perspectives. The first perspective is, if I was doing something after school, okay, not classroom related, but involved with students. Like, for example, we have a robotics team in my school. As long as the volunteer gets board approved, they have their state of New Jersey clearances, they have whatever they need to be board approved. Yeah, that's okay for the most part. Now, during the school day, volunteers are probably still okay, but it's another layer of security to go through. There's another layer of, interviews, if you will, to go through.
So can I ask it a different way, Tim? So, because I hear that, and I want to try and fill a different hole. Is it considered a volunteer or someone that needs approval if they never set foot in the school and they're only supporting you virtually? Like, these are the 15 companies we need research for laser CNC. Can you do this? Or does everyone need to be vetted because there's so many darn knuckleheads in the world?
I think a relationship, like, so for example, like if I was to say, all right, I'm talking with Mark, and Mark is just a guy in industry that I know, and I talk to you and I get information from you, and then I share that with my class, or you provide me with a list of products that are good to use, like, T stud and this stud and, B stud and X stud and whatever studs you have, right?
Yep.
I think there's no issue with that, or there's no problem with that. As long as I'm not getting a kickback.
Correct.
For that. So that's a whole other issue.
So I always try and go with workarounds because, like, whatever we could do to support it, but without getting in your way. And most people, just as you don't want the distraction and added steps, most people and the districts don't either. So we could find certain unique workarounds where people are just delivering that. And then the folks that don't mind filling out 20 forms just to volunteer 10 hours a week, let them go that way. So there's the A path and the B path, and then there's the C path, and that's the one that no one sees, right?
Right. And I think building a professional relationship with somebody outside of the school, like, for example, my professional relationship with you, with Ron, with Rafi, and anybody else, Jimmy DeResta, it doesn't matter. I mean, as long as I'm having conversations with them and I'm bringing those conversations into the classroom, there's no approval needed. And whether you're recommending a product or they're, or say I build a relationship with, say, Total Boat, right? If they build a relationship with me and I use their product, then maybe, like you said, the kid is going to go out and say, oh, I remember using Total Boat in my class. I'm working on X, Y, and Z. I'm going to use their product. So I don't think there's no volunteers needed for that.
Okay.
But if Total Boat wants to donate materials to me, they can't. They have to donate it to the school.
Which all that seems like, what do they call, above bar, right? On the table. And I would applaud that too, because that's ultimately what keeps the manufacturers in line, and it's what keeps the sneaky weasels from being sneaky weasels.
Yeah. And like, for example, a couple years ago, I had a kid that said, Mr. Z, I was watching these YouTube videos and I see them making these plastic resin, tables. And I was kind of feeling the kid out a couple years ago. And I said to him, well, what do you think about it? What are you thinking? What do you want to make? Or what is the possibility? And we go through there. Well, after me kind of, like, I'll say, interviewing him, if you will, I found out that, yeah, there was a financial issue, that he couldn't afford the epoxy, this and that. I went out of my way. I bought $250 worth of epoxy for this kid, right? Now, did the table and the project turn out exactly as I would do it or as I would have liked it? No. But the kid was tickled pink because I went above and beyond to do that for that student. But when he ran out of epoxy because we didn't calculate it right, because we didn't figure in 20% more for the absorption into the wood, because it was my first experience doing that, I had to draw a line and say to the student, like, listen, I already put $250 into your project, out of my own money. This is not school related. This is just me. You got to find a way to get the rest of this now. You know what I mean? So now
That's a real life teaching moment, Tim. Like you've given 500% more than what you've already asked to be given. That's a real life teaching moment. I applaud all of it. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, you do what is right for the student at that given time. Okay. And I was having this conversation with a student actually today, believe it or not, I was having a conversation, and the kid was working on the lathe and he was having a really hard time sanding his bowl. So I walk into my cabinet where all my lathe tools are, and I reach out and I grab this little black box. And the kid's looking at me like, what do you got in there? And I'm like, this is only for the special ones. I said, because I know you appreciate it. And the reason why you do that is because if they know you respect them, they'll respect the additional, I'll say, privileges that you give them. So, like, for example, I bought these like sanders for the lathe that spin one direction as the lathe spins, so it's sanding. I don't know what the best terminology is. It's sanding in a circular pattern while the lathe is spinning in a circular pattern.
Random orbital?
It's like an orbital sanding thing, but it's on a stick. And I showed the kid, I'm like, this is how you use it. I said, I don't let everybody else use this because I said, I know you appreciate this. And when you get the buy-in from them, then they're like, wow, that was awesome. I said,
he or she earned their rank, right? The other tools are, I mean, that everything's available, but you just got to get to that level. There's a ladder in front of you. You don't start at the top.
Right. And I also tell the kids, I'm like, I don't leave this out because, this is a $60, $70 tool. I may have two of them. But, what happens is, and Ron can explain, Duke can explain, and Al, I mean, anybody in a shop leasing world is, you put everything out, everything will get destroyed. And as much as you tell the kids, if you break it, tell me you break it. If it's broken, tell me it's broken. Don't put it back. Right? So when you leave things behind the curtain, if you will, and you take it out from behind the curtain, then they're like, there's that mystery. There's that magic. It's like, what else does this guy have that can make me a better woodworker, that can make me a better person, that can make me a better student? You know what I mean? And when I go into my toolbox, and I mean, because I have my own personal toolbox in my office. And when I go and I grab something that I know that I'm going to need for a student, I specifically will tell the kids, this is mine. This is not the school's. Because it means something to them, because now there's that whole other layer, like, you're the owner of this. Just because you say the school owns it, you don't have a necessarily owner of it. But when I hand the kids my special little like micro combination square that's like this big, and I give it to the kid and I say, this is mine, this is not the school's. I ask that you use it and you give it right back to me. And that's it. I didn't go out and go buy all these micro squares to leave out in the classroom to get destroyed. No. I buy good stuff for myself out of my own money for me to use, and I happen to use it in my classroom.
Yeah, you're like you're the curator. Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah.
Sorry, this actually ties into something, and it's a little off topic, but it ties into what Tim's talking about. And I wonder how many of you actually do this, and whether it works or not. So, in part of what I'm doing with the school, just like you're saying, the kids go, it's the school's. I don't need to respect it as much as if it's yours personally, right? So, things 2 years ago, I saw things organized in a specific way. I come in now, 2 years later, and it's a holy mess. And, broken bits are put back and, the whole 9 yards. And also, there's a tool wall where tools are outlined and they should go back exactly. The two teachers that are work in the shop, they go, the students don't put things back where they say they don't know where they go, and I go, but they took it from there. How could they not know where it goes back? That's one thing. But so what I said to Dr. Aviv, I said, when you get, the freshmen, you need to give them a whole intro to the shop. And that's the 3 weeks that I taught there. Was I got freshmen, so it was the first time in the shop, and I gave them an intro to the shop. I went over every single tool, every single power tool, and I said, this is a table saw, this is the fence. I gave them the terminology. I said, this is a blade, the kerf of the blade is an eighth inch. I really laid into all the terminology. I said, if you come over to me and say, could I use the machine that goes like this? The answer will be absolutely not. You need to know the name of the tool, name of the machine, if you want to use it. Anyway, I went over, I showed them how to use each machine. I, did I showed them how to use it. And I hope that they respect the space more and they treat it more like their own space. And I try to drill into them that this is your space. If you leave a mess, you'll come in and you'll have a mess.
Well,
you're leaving
the
a
other
mess for
thing,
someone else. They'll leave a mess for you too. And
like I was saying, to piggyback on what Rafi's saying is like, I find a lot of times things don't get put away is because of this. It's like, so say for example, I'm using hot glue gun. Okay. Say I'm using hot glue gun. Now the hot glue gun in my shop, I got 2 hot glue guns in my shop. They go in a drawer, in the drawer labeled glue. You're right. I got glue sticks and I got hot glue guns there. Okay. I may be using a hot glue gun, but say I'm giving it to another student now who
they
get
didn't take
hot
it out,
glue
so they
gun.
don't have to put it away.
Well, no, maybe they just don't know where it goes.
Right.
And then the period ends.
And they just leave it on the table.
And they just leave it on a table. So I think a lot of times it's that happens where it's the.
But that's what I'm saying. If those students got the intro to the space and you gave them the tour, you say, this drawer is glue, this drawer is nails, this drawer is, you give them a full tour. And this way, that scenario can't happen where a student will hand a tool over to the next student, and that student will say, I'm done using it. I'll put it away because I know where it is. Because when I came in at the beginning of the semester, I got a tour. And I think that wasting, quote unquote, a half of the first class or a full class on it is invaluable. And, you start your project, a little later, but, at least every student learns the machines. They learn where everything goes. And I think that that's very valuable. I don't have proof that it works because, like I said, I taught these kids 3 weeks, and then after 2 years, they come back, and they're juniors now.
Not for nothing, Rafi, but I was waiting for that. It's good you're honest about it because the tour.
I don't have the follow through.
It could work, but I treat the kids like spies. They're on a need to know basis. You see, you could fill the bucket. You could fill that bucket. You could check all your boxes, but until it becomes something they care about, okay, Matt, no problem. We're here. Until it becomes something they care about, it's probably not going to happen.
And I agree with Ron. I mean, I believe in certain schools, Rafi, what you're doing is awesome. And certain other schools, and the way I work is like Ron works, I give them what they need to know at that time only. If they're not using the hot glue gun, I don't tell them, this is where the hot glue gun goes. Yeah. Because, sometimes you can just overwhelm them with so much stuff.
Yeah.
Here's where the hardwoods are. Here's where the softwoods are. Here's where the cedar scraps are. Here's where the walnut scraps are. Here's where the rulers are. Here's where the blades are. Here's where the nails are. Here's where the screws are. Here's where the, Craig screws are. which are in a different spot than where the drywall screws are. So there's a lot of little nuances that you got to be careful about, where you don't want to overwhelm them too much.
Right.
You know, like when we do our shop, when I do my shop introduction, my shop introduction is literally just say, here's the back room with all the lumber, here's the finishing room, here's the lower storage area, here's the clamps, and if it's big items, this is what I'm telling you they are. But like knowing where the little minuscule glue stick is, they don't need to know that on the first day, because they're not going to be using a glue stick day one.
I understand. No,
So-
but like you're saying, just a basic, tour of the space, and I think that's a great value.
Like
And-
even just to give an example, even when they're doing soldering, what I do is I have them. I'll give a demo, right? But they're not listening, So like
Right.
You're right. You're totally right. They
they're
don't
not
listen.
So what I do is you got to make it fun. So I say, you got to put that flux wax thing on there, and I say, hey, this is the boogers, and I pull it out, and it looks like I just blew my nose. I'm like, and I show them the difference between not using it and using it. And there's a huge difference. Like, it's really hard to melt the solder if you don't have that flux on there. Like, it doesn't work as well. So they don't care about something unless it's absolutely necessary. They're very teenagers are very good at like just getting rid of a lot of noise. You know what I mean? But they don't know how to pick out the music. So if you're playing music, they might think it's noise. So you gotta really work with them on that. So it's not easy. But then from then on, once they see that it's like near impossible, it's like very hard to solder without the flux, they will ask for it. And if it's not, I'll leave it out. But if they can't find it, they say, we can't find it. We can't find it. I'm like, all right, this is serious. Let's try and find it. Didn't you guys put it back? How come you didn't put it back? Right? Like, where's it supposed to be? And then they find out that this other kid didn't put it back. I'm like, that's why we're putting stuff back, So they're on a need-to-know basis. Everything's like an emergency for them, So it's a crazy way to work. Now, don't get me wrong. Kevin Witt, my neighbor in the shop, a wood shop teacher, he's got a place for everything. So he ends 5 minutes early. He says, all right, cleanup time. Those tables are clear. If there's something on the table, he's like, hey, that goes there. You know where it goes. And there's a labeled thing. And I'm not that organized. I'm more like a bucket guy. So I'm more like, all right, draw number 2, draw number 1, and I just kind of like, I go around and I kind of, but it's difficult. It's like a behavior. You got to get into it. One thing that for some reason they all respect is put your chairs up. No idea why, but if you say put your chairs up, all the chairs go up, which means the tables are cleared. It's amazing. It's like a magic trick.
It's funny you say that, because I forget to do that every day. I forget to put the chairs up, and
it's a good habit to get into. It's good because then you can clear the floor. Let me get to Mark. You got a question? Oh, your hand was up.
So, when you guys are describing the students, it's not unlike how we handle our staff.
Oh.
So there's people that you tell them small instruction and they overachieve, right? And then there's other people that you could tell them 15 times and they don't pick it up. We had a creative way of handling it. When we had a shop, we had half wood and half metal. And some tools I supplied and some I didn't for outside of the shop. In the shop, I supplied everything. So our rule was all drops and scraps went to the appropriate category of drops and scraps for when we needed them. Easy. But any tool and a flap disc and any bit that was broke, those went in their own bucket category. And then people could come in or work with me on nights and weekends, and we would create art out of those. We would sell those pieces for high dollar, and then with that money is how I bought more tools. So I'd go in after a weekend of 6 guys working on their own, to get things done, and they had the checklist there, and there'd be 6 grinders, and there'd be 40 flap discs, and there'd be 20 drill bits, and then I'd be like, okay, well, each of those, yeah, we can make about $900 out of. And so oftentimes you're trying to stimulate their creative side, and they always want tools. So I'd buy 2 tools for the shop and 1 tool for someone, and that's about how I bartered it. And depending on your attitude, you were the person that were getting the tool. And if they fought about it, I loved it because that allowed the macho system to determine itself for itself.
Nice.
Hey, Matt.
All right. Matt's here. Now, before we get to Matt.
What's up, guys?
Oh, hey, what's up, man? All right. Just to kind of put a cap on this topic, Duke, is there anything you wanted to add about what you think you'd want from the industry? And maybe Peter and Al could chime in real quick because we didn't get really to them, and then we give Matt a little more time.
Yeah, same thing we talked about before. Just training. I'm looking at all kind of YouTube videos trying to figure out extra things to do with the CNC router and the laser engraver, 3D printers. And like Tim said, you do get the training, the 50-cent training from the guys, maybe a day or a morning or an afternoon. But, it's if someone from the industry can sit down, a professional CNC router or a guy that uses laser engravers can sit down with you, that's half the battle right there.
Yeah, that would be
Getting
cool.
that hands-on training. And then the tools, because of COVID, just like we're right here, we're talking to each other. They're out there. I think as a teacher, I have to make more connections in the industry and field and invite them into the classroom virtually, so there's not the hoops you have to jump through to get them there physically.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to Al. What do you think? What would you want from industry to support your shop class?
Well, I don't really have a shop class. I teach the drawing class. So at this point, I don't know what I could ask for. 2 years in, I'm trying to figure out where I'd fit in after I become tenured in a couple of years. And what I'll be teaching next. I don't know what classes are going to give me. So I'd like to be in the shop more with my kids because they did awesome when we were in the shop the one time so far this year. So I don't really have anything now I can think of.
Well, drawing, I taught drawing for years. The only reason I don't teach the drawing now is because just scheduling wise, I'm just not upstairs. But we had this great drawing room, and I did manual drafting, and we would get real detailed about it. And then we combined that with the computer. And once we got on the computer, it was like the kids that did really well with the drafting, I didn't tell them there was a computer, again, like a need to know basis, right? So I would have them do an orthographic and switch the orthographic into an isometric, and then we'd make the same part on the computer, and they were blown away because they would do a profile and then extrude it, and it's isometric, and they're like, what? Why didn't you show us that before? I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to give you a power tool before you know how to use a screwdriver. Come on, So, I think Al, what you're teaching is vital because you're going from flat to 3 dimensions and you're doing industry standard stuff. So, in my eyes, you're in the shop, man.
Yeah, well, it's a necessary class. It's a first step in our sequence. But you know what? I just thought of something. I happen to be on a need to know basis. I am shadowing the guy who's taught this for 20 years. And he's like, okay, we're going to go do animation next. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And so then he says, take these 4 cards, 4x4, and have the kids give them these words and then tell them to just glue scraps on. And I don't know what it's for. It's part of design. We have to start talking about the design language now. So, but I don't know, going back in on Monday, how we're going to get to animation from this point. It's a need to know. As he gets done with this section, I follow. I'm 2 days behind him at this point. So I can watch him do what he's doing. But yeah, I don't know where he's going.
Wait, let me ask you a question. You're overlapping another teacher right now?
What do you mean overlapping?
Like, so there's a teacher that's like about to retire and you're in the class with them?
No, he's been there for 20 years. I don't know when he's going to retire. I am teaching 5 sections of designing drawing for production. He's teaching 2, and another teacher's teaching 2. We had a huge middle school class.
So you're on your own, but then he just checks on you or something?
No, he tells me, as I need to know, he tells me what's going on. So
But you're not in the same room together.
we do share the room. So he teaches some other classes, and I teach I teach in that classroom 1st and 4th, and he has the rest of the day in the class.
But it's not like when you say shadow, you guys bump into each other, but it's not like you're team teaching as a way of teaching you.
No, we're not team teaching.
I always thought it was like very wasteful in the school system that you could have a 40-year shop teacher veteran, and then the guy retires. Literally, they take his keys, they take his email, they shut the door. Thank you, bye-bye. And then the new person comes in and then know nothing. And it's literally like this to this. There's no overlap. I got lucky. The woodshop teacher who was there since like they put up the building, I didn't overlap him. Similar situation. I overlapped him in time, but he wasn't teaching with me. But I could go to him. I could walk across the hall and say, "Hey," he was named Mr. Canito. I was like, "Hey, Mr. Canito, what would you do here?" He's like, he was like that.
No, it's the same for me with this other teacher. He's there. I can go to him with any questions. I just think it's kind of funny that I'm in the dark as far as I asked him what are the next steps, and I forgot what he told me before we left on this week-long vacation, but whatever it wasn't enough. So
that's so funny. He's holding back on you, like
it seems like it. It's probably the way I'm saying it, but he's not.
He's been there too long. You're just a kid to him. He's like, yeah,
but he's an expert at what he's doing. So I'm watching him and trying to figure out where he's going. I have my other ideas. I don't know. My coordinator, the thing about what's happening with this class with 9 sections, coordinator wants all 3 of us who are teaching this course to be like neck and neck, not time wise, but what we're teaching has to be identical. That's what he wants from us.
Oh man,
he wants the curriculum to be the same. We can teach it in our own ways, but if the other teachers are doing animation, I have to do animation. That's what I mean.
Yeah, that could be good. That could be bad. Sorry, Tim. What?
That's for consistency, because when they move to the next level or they want to make sure that you're pulling the same skills.
Yeah.
I got lucky. I literally just design it every single year. I just make it a little improvement on the year before and do it how I see fit. Experimentation. Let's get to Peter real quick, and then we'll go to Matt. I know, Peter, you're not a shop teacher, but I would love to hear your input.
Yeah, you were saying about instructional video, like I just posted in the chat from Haas Automation on YouTube. Their engineers, a variety of them. The one is Mark Terryberry. He does CNC. Do you have CNC where you are? Right.
I don't, but that is a absolutely beneficial thing that I wish I had. That would be awesome. And I need
because you were talking about having the experts come in the classroom. Well, he's one of those operator experts. He knows those machines real well, and he goes with it pretty deep if you're familiar with it. I graduated myself only 8 years ago from mechanical engineering, and we had Haas lathe, the Haas mill in the college. And I only bumped into these later after, but I found them very helpful to add to the knowledge that I got back in college. Go ahead.
I want to just interrupt you for a second so that I don't forget what I was going to say. I've known about these little Haas tours, but until it was endorsed by you just now, I really didn't give it. Now I'm okay. If you feel like because sometimes it's like, oh, it's just advertising. You're like, I don't got time for that. But if you're saying that it's like you put a check on it. I'm going to
Yeah.
check it out. That's very interesting to me. Okay, good.
With his instruction, he's oriented more to enhancing what you have and using it better, like you were saying about how to use the machine better and correctly and have the training included. This is what they do. I like his style particularly well. There are others who do other segments, but if he's not in it, I don't watch it. That's where that goes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
you're
very
talking
helpful.
about the field trips and the paperwork and the red tape, and it's so beneficial to get out, but you only get to go, let me see, between school start, be on the bus, school end, you got to be back in the class. You got an hour to transport, hour back, you're cutting down to about 3.5 hours, and then you got to have a lunchtime. So what's the effective field trip time if you do it all day? Right?
Yeah.
So, and the school board, they look at it as liability because it's out of their building control zone.
Right.
If you're out anywhere else, then they have to go, ooh, insurance. So that's their consideration in making it difficult for you to do good field trips.
Yeah, I agree that it is difficult to run a field trip, and it would be great to have, even if you could like get started with these videos and then have one live session. It would be a game changer because you know the kids are funny because like right now we're doing LinkedIn. I have the kids make a LinkedIn account.
Good.
And the reason I do that is because no one in the building, I'm not going to say no one, but I would say very unlikely that teachers are explaining that the paper resume is dead. Like literally like the paper. Are you kidding me? Paper? A paper resume? That's a joke. That's not a thing. That's like, that was made when typewriters were around, you know? And so it's absurd. So I explain that to them and I have them make a resume, which then gets them out there. And I showed them, I say, hey, if you want to work at, let's say, Tesla, or you want to work at whatever, and I type in, and you can actually look at the people that are working there and what their background is and how they got there. And you can contact them.
Yeah.
And they said to me, we could contact them. Like they didn't understand that this was even available. They did not know that you could reach out to industry professionals and talk with them. That was not on the radar for them. And these are like, it's not just the bad kids in the building. These are like the kids that like are in AP classes and whatnot. They didn't know. The only thing they know is SAT scores, you know?
But reaching out to those current industry professionals is the best way. Had I had that in high school 40 years ago, by the way, that I would have been better having an idea of which direction I wanted to go and what to do and what job I wanted. What's this job involve? Oh, I don't like that kind of activity. I'll do something else. And to get a little test on like a day at the elbow of somebody in some kind of business, whatever. Doesn't have to be exactly shop or anything, but just in business or in accounting or in, making widgets. I don't know. But having an exposure to a different profession, it'd be kind of nice once in a while.
Yeah. Also, it would break down misconceptions. Like, I've had students that tell me they can't take the engineering class because they're going to do medical. And I was like, medical? I was like, isn't that kind of like all robots now anyway? So like you got to know something about materials. You got to know something about simple machines and levers and everything involved in, materials and robots and whatnot.
Doctors are developing a lot of those robots and getting patents on them. So,
yeah.
Having an engineering background when you go into medicine could really work out for you financially.
100%. And then, so imagine if there was a doctor that was like speaking to my class and saying, hey, actually I'm really into engineering because we have to use, these stainless steel tools and we have to have a clean room and And then that would like make those neuron connections. Like sometimes I say to my students, I wish I could get paid incentivized based on when they go, They go like this. They go, oh, you know, they go, oh, and that's it. Bam. That's my job. Because if they're not going, oh, then that means there's something, they're not really paying attention or whatever, you know? So, you know, and here's this guy talking about the Haas machines, and he's giving you the whole overview. When someone says machining, they might not know it's a person running a machine doing a 3D pattern. They might not even know what it is, you know? So it's very interesting like that to actually make these connections. Mark, you had your hand up.
I'm hoping that this guy could be a sponsor. Come on the show. Are you kidding me with this space? You can lick the floor. It's huge. It's pretty. I mean,
Are those mills? What are these houses?
It could be the most garbage piece of equipment ever, but I'm falling for every bit of it.
Yeah. Oh, so Rafi, did you ask what a Haas machine is?
Yeah, is it a mill?
Yeah. So it's an automated CNC mill or a lathe, and sometimes there's a double lathe with a mill in the middle. Okay. And a really cool company that I followed, and I luckily got a shop tour was, believe it or not, if let's say you're making custom bicycles, there is parts that would be very difficult for you to do as a sole proprietary type of thing. So you might make the frame and you might weld all these pieces and be like an expert welder or whatever. But the machining, you might as well buy the bottom bracket and your head tube, and the dropouts and the front and the rear dropouts. Now there's a company that makes them, and they use the highest level of machining. In fact, it'll spin on one side, the other one will grab it so that they could cut on both sides of the part. Like if you're holding something, you can't cut here where you're moving. So imagine holding it, cutting, then the other one grabs it, spinning it and cutting the other side that you were holding before. And then what if you need milled in the middle and rotate, and mill? So there's a lathe mill Haas machine. It's insane.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
I can write the G code for it. That's what, but you go from, like you use SolidWorks, that you said on shape, that the SolidWorks, we use the NX from Siemens. It gives you machine tooling path, and then you verify that it works and doesn't collide, and then you send that to a translator. It makes it into G code, and you send that to the CNC lathe or the mill, and it does it. So you do it slowly once. You go through it, make it, and then so it's going to be perfect. You correct your code because there will be errors, and small instructions that make it smooth. And how you build your G code and segments. It's a real interesting thing to know.
Peter, you're in big trouble. You know why?
Why?
You're my guy now.
Oh no.
You're my expert.
You were saying about resumes and resume writing, and paper resumes are passé. It's true, but you have to instruct your students to rewrite their resume and cover letter differently for each job they apply on.
Oh.
Yeah, the applicant tracking system, ATS, it filters out if you don't have all the right wordings in your resume or cover letter that is specifically applicable to that job posting. It won't include you to get reviewed.
Oh wow! See, I didn't even know that.
Oh, you go looking at applicant tracking systems and find out what they do for the companies that are hiring, because HR doesn't have time to go through the thousands of applications they receive, so that they put them through this filter that scans through the words that you have in your application, in your resume, and if it aligns well with what their sequence of keywords are, you might get a reviewing. If not, you don't get even noticed.
No kidding, really?
I'm currently looking for a new job, and it's that difficult. It's a challenge now. And you can't send the same resume to all jobs. You have to rewrite each time specifically to that posting, rewrite your resume and your cover letter.
Wow.
using the words that they're using in their post.
Precisely.
Right.
That's right, Rafi.
Right.
So
So
I just want to give a shout out here to, this is Mark that you're seeing on the screen here, and he runs a Paragon machine. And so they make all the parts for the bicycle that are not tubes. So like, you know, the connections, but the bottom brackets, and they use old school machines and new school to make everything that they make. So like, oh, here would be perfect. Look at this monster. You know, this is like brand new type of lathe, you know, automated stuff. But they have old machines, and those old machines serve them well. This is in San Francisco, in Richmond. If you ever get a chance to get up there, it's you know, they're pretty cool. Everybody's super nice, but you wouldn't know that this is even a thing because everybody tries to convince the students that manufacturing's dead, but it's not. And it's alive and well, and they're making stuff, and they've got these old machines. I guess this is a cat profile there, but anyway, so pretty cool. Okay, that was pretty good. This topic was wild. This is a good one. We had a complaining session, but we actually got something done. This is good. Let's see, is Matt around? Is he here?
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay. Matt's
What
probably
up?
like, oh man, he rushed home and we just kept on talking. I'm sorry, Matt.
Oh no, this worked perfect. I got home.
Oh.
Well, my time's 7:30, and then I got the kids bathed and in bed, and took care of a couple things down at the end of the house while they're finishing up. And then, literally, as soon as I logged on, I get the phone call. Hey, come pick us up. That Carmen and the girls were just across the street at the junior high for volleyball. So, but it's
Oh yeah.
pretty cold outside, so they didn't want to walk back across the road. So, nope, this
No
worked
problem.
out great. I was answering
Great.
a couple messages on the phone and listening to everything. Awesome.
Nice. So we're
But
switching
wait,
gears.
hold on. First,
Ah.
happy birthday, Matthew.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. My birthday was on the 2/22/22 Tuesday.
Oh, no kidding. All right. That's cool. Nice.
The big
yeah. happy
4-1.
birthday, Matt. Wow. No kidding. Oh, all right. All right. We're in the zone, man. We're in the 40 zone.
Oh yeah.
It's only getting better. I will tell you. Just the only problem is the snowboard. If you get hurt, you feel it more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah, man. I got an injury from early in the season. I'm still feeling it. I'm like going to see the school trainer. He's like, dude, you got to get an MRI. I'm like, He's like, no, you're in your 40s now. You actually got to take care of yourself. I'm like, oh my God. Cool. So switching gears, Matt did something huge, man, huge. Matt went down to the International Build Show, and we're gonna get like the wrap up. God, this was so cool. So many things had to come together to make this happen. And so cool. He's wearing the Shop Class Podcast T-shirt, which I guess we'll make more of these, right? We've got the logo ready, and so we want to hear all about it. You won the social like a community builder award, and tell us what you think. Yeah, what happened down there?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons we did the topic tonight too, was because that kind of why went down there was to present and find out and talk to people like what we all wanted and what we need for our programs, and then even bigger idea, what's going to take to start these programs up in other communities or other communities and schools, whether it's something in a shop form or it's a full-blown job site program like we have. So Sashco, it's a caulking company out in Denver. They're the ones that are responsible for getting me down there. And it just happened also that Huber was presented me with the Community Builder Award, which was really cool of Huber. The fun part was in that video, you'll see him in a second, Matt Reisinger, anybody that follows the Build Show, and Matt Reisinger. I actually was with Matt for the SashGo thing, and then with he was the host, the MC for the awards and stuff. So it was really, that part was really cool, an honor. The fun, it was kind of fun being down there. I really didn't get to visit many of the booths. I ended up getting super busy talking to people I kind of already knew, whether I met them personally or because of Instagram. But they were really good, important networking opportunities for me. And the fun part was, like, the goal is now to get more teachers down at this event, because it doesn't matter really what trade, or, yeah, I'm building trades, residential builder, whatever. But thing is, everything we do ties into everything that happens in all the trades, whether it's metalwork, auto. I mean, you had big car companies and stuff there, trying to sell the trucks and vans. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, everybody's there, cabinet making, woodworking. It all ties into the let's say residential and even commercial, building industry. So when people find out that I was a shop teacher or trades teacher, especially when they found out we built the houses, it was pretty crazy. People asked me if I had like a business card, and I'm like, no, man, I'm a teacher. Like, why would I have a business card, right? So I was handing out my info a lot, and the good thing was, I met some people because I'm on Instagram and we've been connected, and we just never met personally. But the big part of it was people would come up and be like, hey, Matt, I've been following you for a while, or maybe I just saw you up on Huber or whatever. Can I get your information to our administration or to our shop teacher or whatever? And I was like, heck yes. Like, that's exactly what we want. Like that's definitely. So that was really cool. And we're in the Shop Class Pod thing. Thanks, Al. We're in the Shop Class Podcast t-shirt. Got a lot of people asking, and I think I've got about 5 people at least that want to jump on the show with us and come talk. And the cool part is they're professionals in different industries within the trades. They, as far as helping spread our word and our message, they got a lot of followers on Instagram, and some even on YouTube. Now, as far as the connecting, what brought this all about was, one of the things, this is so crazy. So we scheduled to do this. SashGo is the one that paid for me to go down there and talk, and covered my expenses for the trip. And Charlotte calls me today or messaged me from SashGo, and she literally, the question said was, all right, what do you need for your class? What do you need for your program? I'm like, that is a popular question today. So these companies, there's a lot of companies, they're already asking this question. So this is why, me and Ron were talking about the idea of just having, instead of any other guest, let's talk about and find out what you guys all want, hopefully get other people to, get a hold of us or whatever. We're going to start talking and asking the industries in their area, because there's a lot of companies that just want to give stuff or want to help or want to come talk to your class. As soon as I'd walk by and somebody'd say, oh, you a builder? And I'm like, well, yeah, kind of, but this is what I do now. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then one of the companies is like, all right, just send us however many of these special flashing, penetration flashings for walls. They're like, Quick Flash, that was the company. They're like, hey, just send us your list of what you want. We'll send them out. I'm like, hell yeah. Like I don't think it's not just limited to what I'm doing or we're doing. I think any of us can reach out and get a lot of support. And then I have potentially 2 companies now that want to hook us up with drywall finishing tools. Thanks to connecting with Lydia Crowder, who's Drywall Shorty on Instagram. She's one of the Build Show Network contributors now. She's another one. She's one that wants to jump on the show and talk about, especially getting girls into the interested in the trades and into our classes, talk about that. She is awesome. She's in Bozeman, Montana. She's literally drywall shorty is no joke. The girl is short, but she owns the business. It's her and her husband. She's been doing this forever because her dad was in the industry. The girl, it's insane how many houses her and her husband do each year. It's like 70 houses a year or something. Yeah, insane. So she's awesome. She literally just messaged me because she had shared on her story one of the videos of us doing the drywall taping. And she's like, hey, one of these companies just reached out to me, wants to get a hold of you and help out. And so here's the information, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, awesome. So the build show, we worked with them talking about, and the thing is, the idea is not, this doesn't stop at my program. The idea is, how do we highlight everybody else's programs as well? How do we get other teachers involved? How do we get more of us in front of the industries and the companies that we need to talk to and get support from? How do we encourage more companies to keep stepping up and coming forward, saying they want to help, and not only say they want to, and also, actively help? The buzz around the IBS, man, they are all for, like, we got a lot of allies out there. We just got to team up with them. Like that video was kind of funny. Talking about snowboarding.
Oh yeah. I've seen that one.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like I just did not expect, not that it was really a big deal, but I did not expect to be a bigger fish than I was. And it's all because these companies want to help. And it's not really because who I am, but it's because of what I'm doing, just like what we're all doing. And so the plan is Charlotte from Sashka, and they're going to start encouraging more companies to start covering the cost for us teachers to make it too. So the next one's in Vegas next year. And that's the idea, to keep bringing the teachers in, getting them in front of these industries, these influencers, the companies, everybody, and get everybody connected. And, so fill out those professional development forms. We're going to Vegas next year, boys.
Nice. Let's do it. Just to jump in for a sec, SEMA, which is the Special Equipment Manufacturers Association, is basically like all the cool stuff you put on your car after you buy it. They have an education arm, and I wouldn't have known, except I had a friend who's a teacher in California, and all the California teachers, they all go to this thing, and they support. The industry is like bonkers for teachers. But so now that's a good model. I got like an all access pass, and I just had to pay for my way out there, which not everybody can do.
Yeah.
I got lucky. I had a friend to stay with, and my costs were low or whatever. But this is the kind of thing, and the exposure is crazy, because now you're looking at the latest tech, and you're talking with the reps and the companies right there, and you're putting that hand in there, and it's not just something you see on the internet. And
sometimes you're talking to the actual owners. Like, it's not even just a sales rep. Sometimes they introduced me to something like VP of purchasing or whatever. Like the VP was in front of their name, kind of thing. And there was some people just straight up, like Quick Flash. He's like, do you mind if we come and do like an install with the kids? I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'm in Illinois. Do you got someone local? He's like, no, I'm in Vegas. I'll just fly out. I was like, okay, well, whatever you want to do, man. Like, like I said, sometimes you're not talking to, the sales rep guys pitching the pitches. It's the guy who created the product or built the company from the ground up. But, and that could be from a small business to a big business. Like they're out there to drum up and work with, obviously help out us. They're bringing out their big guns to work with the other big guns. So we just get a nice, little bit benefit of being there and wanting to help out. So, and there's a lot of companies that literally have money sitting in an account looking to spend it for these kind of purposes. They just don't know where or how or whatever.
Yeah. The thing is that we're the farm system, basically. And, there's just clearly there's just not enough shop classes. And then they have, turnover, so yeah. And so just like we were talking to Brittany from last week, and she was saying that she's basically a temp agency. And we were like, wait, really? And she's like, yeah, well, I have to teach them the ruler. We're like, come on. That's something we can handle. We got that. You just support us and we will support you. This is a partnership. We're the farm system, and they should have scouts just like in sports. Think about sports. I don't know. I wasn't on the professional athlete pathway, but I played. I appreciate the game, but Matt, you were playing on a high level. Did you guys have scouts talking to your coaches and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, in the recruiting process, you'd have coaches or their scouts or represent whoever was contacting you or popping in at the games or things like that. And then them being at Mizzou, I got to playing with guys that went actual pro. You'd have pro guys popping in and coming in wearing their jackets from whatever NFL team and stuff. So, and that's the thing. When I was up in Chicago area suburbs, we were touring some manufacturing programs. And so up there in Chicago, you got a lot of the car manufacturers and stuff still, or part manufacturers. And the kids were literally getting recruited out of those classes like they were a D1 potential athlete. I mean, and it's and like the one of the biggest problems their CTE director had for the district was getting too many phone calls every day about when are the kids going to be certified and ready and graduated. Wow. Like they were just hounding them. Like in what the amazing part was there in that area, you kind of have there wasn't much middle class. It was either you got the money or you don't got the money. And so some of these kids, they were going to come out making more than, assuming they even had both parents at home, they're probably going to be the breadwinners of the house. Wow. And definitely the major breadwinners of the house, because they were certified on all these machines. Like, I mean, it was insane. Like literally it was like getting recruited, watching, college. It was like dealing with college recruiting for sports.
And what area is that in? Detroit?
Was it Lyle? We're in the suburbs of Chicago. So we weren't quite in the city yet, but it's one of those things where you start getting into some of the money and, but you still had, some families that still weren't, kind of a little bit lower on the financial scale and stuff. But no, it was awesome. Like, I mean, everyone's so hungry for everything, whether just having a background in the industries, you can, I've said it before, you can go into marketing, sales, education, product reps, all that stuff. And what's cool about this, so that, like I said, was kind of like the pep rally. So now it's the plan. How are we going to win the game is what's starting to happen now. And talking with Charlotte again from Sashco, she's got some things we're going to work on putting together to kind of start jump-starting things. Which once they get that all sorted out, I'll definitely be talking about that here on the show.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
That's one thing, like going back to what you're saying, recruiting these kids, these college recruiters for sports, like you were saying, Ron, they come to the schools. I suggested a lot of the schools, the tech ed prep schools, who are recruiting these teachers, like Millersville, the College of New Jersey, they send their professors to the shops, and to recruit these kids, because, Millersville told me, oh, we have open house, every Thursday and Friday where the kids can come to us. Well, a lot of these kids can't afford to come to Millersville or want to drive 2 hours or a far distance. But you bring these professors into the schools, explain the programs to them. The kids might be more likely to go to even to go to college. A lot of these kids that are in the shops. So we're down teachers. We need teachers. We can't find tech ed teachers. Bring the professors into the schools just like they do for the sports.
Yeah, when I was talking to them about, what it takes to kind of like start up these programs, and I gave different examples, Frank Cacavel's, Mike DeGuidis's, and Barber Checks, all different ranges of ways, these work. But I also said one of the bigger problems is once we figure out, convince schools to start these programs, the next problem is getting someone to teach it.
Yeah.
Just as much as there's a shortage of workforce labor, there's a lot of people like, oh, they were the best teacher on the job site, best carpenter foreman. But man, you throw them in the classroom with kids or on job site with kids, it's a whole new world. I mean, we all know it's a whole new world. So there's a lot of hurdles and stuff, but the fact that there's lots of people actively trying to connect with us, they just don't know us yet, or vice versa. It was very motivating. It definitely refilled the tanks and stuff for sure. And I think if we can, what really be cool is what we need to do is like all the other podcasts. If we all can get to Vegas or do a live show from the floor, I'll talk to one of those guys and we can do a live show from their booths and stuff. And there's people down there doing that left and right. Dave Cooper, who Duke and Ron and I jumped on, finally met up with Dave. Got to shake his hand and get a picture of Dave.
Right.
And he was all over the place. Of course, Matt Reisinger was all over the place. But, they're down there. And they're pretty much just like, Matt, give us your wish list. Tell us what you want. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be just me. And they're all for the idea that they want to meet more students. And I think everyone's on the same page. They would love to have the problem of, there's just too many people to give to, too many programs to give to, and it's not. So all of us that are doing stuff right now, the picking is good. Whatever you want, you can kind of go after and get. And I'm going to say this probably for any of our industries, welding, auto mechanics. Because all of us are hurting in the trades. Doesn't matter what. Doesn't have to be correlated directly to house building, but it's been fun for me, on the fun side for me, it's opened up some opportunities to get involved with some things, which is very cool. I get to bring in, you guys and some other teachers. I talked to MT Copeland, who is doing a big online training platform. And they want to get into the schools. So I was talking with them about getting how to get what they need to do to create curriculum for teachers. So I had a nice meeting with them. I'm going to team up, I guess in an unofficial way with them, as far as I'm getting them some other shop teachers. Barber Check will be one of them, more likely. They pretty much asked her, like, what do we need to do? I said, make it easy for us. Like, teachers want easy. Yeah. We got so much going on. We just want plug and play. And I said, here's what you guys do. Like, because right now, so they gave me access to their program, or to their courses. And like after each video, they do a good job breaking it down and describing it, good production, like everything is done to it, just amazing. But they ask like one question at the end of each video, kind of like when we do video trainings for whatever, I was like, for a teacher, we want about 5 to 10 questions on each video to assign to students, right? I said, but here's the thing. Don't you guys go in there and try to figure out all the questions. I said, have teachers. I said, I'll find you guys teachers. I'll be great at this. I said, give them free access to your stuff. Have them watch it. Tell them to give however many questions they want per video. Send them back to you. Collect them. See where there's some correlation or relation to questions. Then make your question list. I said, let the teachers do the work for you. I said, we'll do it. We'll be happy to do it. You're giving us free stuff that we can use in our classroom. We'll send you some questions because we're going to do it anyway. So I said, don't rack your brain over what you guys have to create this curriculum. I go, just give it to us. We'll create it for you, and you guys reap the benefits and let us have full range to your courses. and they love that idea. So,
Nice. What company is this?
If you go to Instagram, go to MT Copeland. I actually kind of got tied in with them real early when they were getting ready to launch. I kind of like an unofficial consultant, if you want. Like they just wanted to pick my brain on a teachers, trade teachers, kind of see, what we kind of look for and what's going, for the industry. And they got some great people. Like it's people who Lydia, who's Drywall Shorty. She's one of the presenters. These pictures are just kind of stock pictures. But if you go up, Jordan, click on their course there. So these are all courses that you can buy. Now they range anywhere from like $75 to almost $500. So many different courses. I didn't realize they had so many courses. I mean, they go project management, they go into construction math, framing. It's pretty impressive. So in the classroom, like talk about having some sub days stuff for your subs, like for the kids to watch. I mean, there's a lot that they could do. So I told him, if you can integrate it into our grading programs, like Google Classroom, if we're able to get on there, have a dashboard where we can see who's logging in, who's doing their work, who's turning in their assignments, things like that. Kind of work towards that stuff. So they're really interested in seeing what they can do and help out and get involved with us as trade teachers and shop teachers. So we'll see what comes out of it for them. But they got some good stuff, and I believe they got some pretty serious backers in the kind of the tech industry that kind of want to make this happen, because it's a full-on production for each thing. I mean, they framed a small house inside a studio.
I see that. There's no background there. It's like
that's a legit house
studio.
Yeah.
Wow. This is awesome. This is the stuff that this would be very helpful.
Yeah.
I think breaking it down, into small things, for instance, like that's the thing I found is like every program's different. So like you've gone big because you went with like you're doing this house. And what I've done is I do smaller competitive projects, and that's kind of where I'm at. And I don't like buying kits. I want to build small vehicles that I can be competitive with that lead up to something bigger. And then, so like see, like if I could add machining, like we were talking about, then maybe there's a small machining class, type of thing. So I think this is great that you're connected with this. Basically, Matt, you're like the shop teacher spokesman, man. It's great. Like you're really helping out here. This is awesome.
No, it's fun. I thanks, Rafi.
See you later, Rafi. Thanks for coming in.
It's fun. I didn't.
Thanks. Have a good night.
I don't know. I wasn't really, like I was talking to Mark after I got back. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't expect to do all that stuff, but it's, I don't know. I feel being connected to that world and connected to our world. And if they want to talk to me, then I'm going to bring it all together. So why not? Right. I mean, it's fun.
Oh, sorry, Matt.
No, you're fine.
One key element that I would say is that when they develop these programs, they got to make sure they talk to actual teachers.
Yeah.
I had some experiences with, SAE is a Society of Automotive Engineers. And they are developing some programs for kids. And, they have a lot of people that are consultants and whatnot, but they're not in the classroom currently. And things have changed over the last 10 years. The kids are different now, like we talked about. So yeah, so what they need to do is like really got to listen to the people in the arena, you know, and I think that would benefit everyone. It'd benefit the person, the teacher that's in the show, you know, and then also them, because they would get the current vibe from the kids. You know, a kid from 10 years ago is completely different from a kid now. You know,
Yeah.
the phone wasn't a factor 10 years ago. I mean, it was just
Well,
starting.
and,
It wasn't
and
really.
that was one of Charlotte's thing from Sashco. Like, she's like, we need to get more companies to sponsor more teachers. And the thing is, for some of these companies, I mean, it ain't nothing. Like, Sashco gave me a $1,500 travel allowance to take care of traveling and staying there for the week. And I mean, it was just like, all right, yeah, we'll what's your PayPal? We'll send it over. Like, in some of these companies, I mean, you gotta remember, some of these, now Sashco's budget isn't that big, but like Huber, their booth was half the size of the house I live in. Like, it may have been 1,000 square feet, and it was, I'm gonna say that for them, their fee to be there was probably over $100,000. So for them to throw, say, $1,500 to make sure a shop teacher or whoever can get to these things would be nothing. So I think there's going to be and I mean, I'm going to do my part to try to, you know, not necessarily, I won't say get my friends there, but I mean, you guys are my friends now. So, but
Yeah.
get the teachers I'm connected to that I know, or, you know, we're trying to connect everyone else, you know, and see what more we can do. Like,
Yeah,
right
that's
now
cool,
the
man.
industry wants it. So let's connect and help each other out as much as we can, and help, you know, I mean, obviously it's fun and nice for us as teachers because it makes our jobs easier. And it's always, you know, it's fun because we get, you know, the perks of getting you to go to Orlando or getting to go to Vegas. But I mean, if we can bring that in, and, you know, it connects kids. Like, to now, I tell the kids, I'm like, you guys want jobs? If you guys move somewhere, if you want jobs, just let me know. I'll message. I go, maybe I don't know the people in that town, but I probably know somebody that knows somebody in that town, or close enough or if you want to go work for some of these big corporations, you know, like if you want to go work for T-Stud, or if you want to go work for Sashco, like, I mean, I could get you at least an interview, or, you know, the name of who you got to send your resume to. Like, it builds the network. It just builds our network even greater. And, you know, then we pass it on to the kids, and that's the whole point of the whole thing anyway. I mean, that's, and that's what those shows are for too, that they're there to network with people. And we are the, you know, stepping stone to their future employees. So they want to talk to us. Like, I wasn't quite prepared for that. Like, not that I don't mind talking to people, but it was weird to have people stand there and wait to talk to me. You know, so, but
It couldn't have happened to a better guy. I mean, Matt, you deserve all this, and we know that you are in the right place. I mean, to me, it's like, man, you know, oh yeah, Peter, we'll get to you. Absolutely. It's just amazing. Like, you build a house with the students. Like, that's incredible. And there's so many opportunities to learn on that situation. And I know that it's not easy, because I did I used to do what I call big splash projects. And man, like, we built we did a veggie diesel car. So we did, like, we got a Volkswagen, and we added a tank, and we ran the lines, and we had the car up. You know, the thing is, the shop teachers I always tell people, shop teachers have 3 liabilities. You guys have, you could get, like, one of the kids could get hurt. The tools you're using could be damaged, and the material you're using could be broken. And there's no way to get rid of any one of those when you're doing a live project. What I do is I reduce it by doing these little projects, but eventually you got to do a big splash again. You know, so like I do these little projects. We do a flashlight. We do a little mini car. You could work on a bicycle or something like that. And if the bicycle breaks, who cares? Whatever. But when you're doing a house or a full-size car that's going on the road, now you've got all three threats. You got three liabilities, and you've taken on all three and thrived. This is a sign of like an incredible effort that you've put in, you know? So I think you deserve everything that's coming. And I think you're the right person. You got the right, you know, attitude and everything. You're in the right place. It's amazing. So I appreciate you doing this, you know?
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Peter, what do you got?
Well, Matt, how does it feel to be a celebrity? And this is what the spotlight is on you, and you're, you know, well, I'm just doing my little thing about teaching, and other people who find that amazing look up to you and look to questions and answers from you. Quite a good example.
Yeah. I got to pretend a lot more than I know what I'm talking about now, right? If at first I just had to convince the kids I knew what I was talking about, now I got to convince others.
You know,
But no, it's fun. I like I always tell kids, you know, like I said, I was very fortunate in high school to have a little bit of local celebrity stuff. So I got to experience some of the fun stuff, talking to newspapers and things. But I was also, I mean, I got to thank my parents for, you know, keeping my head so I could fit through the door still, you know, coming home. It's going to come and go. And I tell the kids that too. I was like, you know, keep going after your 15 minutes of fame. It's fun. Enjoy it. Don't be an ass about it, but take advantage of the moment, get everything out of it you can. When it dies off, go find what you got to do to get the next 15 minutes. I said, you know, a lot of it, you know, I think for me, it was a lot of just, I always tell everyone, my students, you know, as this was kind of building up and stuff, and they see who starts following me and stuff on Instagram, like, Bloomy, you famous? I'm like, no, but my friends are. And they're very nice, and they're bringing me for the ride. And then that's kind of how I look at it too. Like, you know, whatever extra notoriety I've gotten, I want to make sure I bring all my friends with, right? It's more fun that way. And it's like, I don't want to be the only one experience this. Like, it's very energizing. It keeps you going as a teacher. I mean, I'm pretty excited about my job as it is anyway. Plus it just puts more pressure on administration to have to keep these programs. So that's really what I want to do. is make every administration be like, well, we can't, you know, Chris Davis up in Detroit, you know, Henry Ford too. He talks about it all the time, man. Get that good press. He's like, the schools love the good press. It's hard to get rid of, you know, that one thing. Hopefully it's not the only thing, but that one thing there at school, you know, and our FFA program, our ag program, does a really good job at it too. And so, you know, I've had a lot of, you know, some good people to follow at my own school. But yeah, I mean, it's when you're winning awards and getting all these kudos and pats on the back, and people are talking about your high school, and, you know, then you got Mark Willie, you know, blowing you up on Instagram all the time. It's hard to ignore, and it's hard to get rid of. So I think if there's ever any real big goal of mine, other than my own personal goals with the program, is, you know, bring others up, so that way they got that leverage against their administration when it comes time for the big axe.
Literally, like, if these companies would write an email to the principal or to the board of these districts and just say, hey, I don't know where your program is currently at, but just so you know, we need shop classes. Whether you're teaching the building the trades, or you're teaching some intro to engineering or something like that, we support you and encourage you. Let us know if we can be of help. You know, what's the name of your shop teacher? Can we start a conversation? Now, it might be a stretch to ask all these people to do that, but imagine like the principal, they don't hear from industry, and they're not on the call with us on a Wednesday night talking to other shop teachers. We don't have any. I don't think they're doing that. You might have an administrator doing that, but it's pretty unlikely. I used to have my first supervisor did my job for 30 years, so he knew all about cars, and he knew all about getting the industry in and stuff like that. Well, maybe not so much that, but he knew like about cars, right? So I didn't have to convince him of anything, But then the next supervisor I had taught the music class and did not care what happened to my class. And so there was a really bad transition. And then we had a 40-year veteran retire, and the next guy they hired, he was kind of like, I won't say too much, but it was not good. It was like unsafe. And so like, how do you recover from a department that it's like a sinking ship? There's only so much you can bail if there's a hole in the side of the freaking hull, So luckily, I convinced a science supervisor to become my supervisor, and that changed everything, because then it became about highlighting engineering, which was the application of the science. Boom, game changer. The whole thing turned around. We hired the right people, and that was huge. But then still finding people was difficult. K-Wit, I'll tell you a story about K-Wit real quick. Kevin Witt, he's on Instagram. He was here in the shop, in this garage. He took my welding 101 class, my side business. I didn't know him. Actually, my girlfriend at the time is the ex now, but girlfriend at the time, she was an interior designer, and he was on site, and they needed him to make a shelf with metal brackets, and he didn't know how to do the welding. So he hired me to teach him how to weld and make the brackets here with him. And then later, about a week later, I called him and I said, "You want to be like a wood shop teacher?" And I said, "Before you say anything, just so you know, the teenagers have attitude. The school system has a red tape. The hours it's early in the morning. But you get to build stuff with kids. You got your summers off. You can do some fun stuff. I enjoy it." And he said, "Yeah, let's do it." I go, wait. Before you say yes, do you understand what's involved? You're going to have to go back to school to become a shop teacher. You can't just transition. He says, "Let's do it." I was like, wow. And he did it. How many guys are going to do that? He was a cabinet maker. Not a lot of people are going to do that. So that's a major problem. So the awareness of the supervisors that shop class is important and industry's asking for it, getting new shop teachers in, and then asking the questions of the whole premise of this meeting tonight, which is, what do the shop teachers need? What kind of support? So these are even though it's obvious, but we still got to do the work, like you said.
See, I got into the building side of things when my fourth brother, the architect, designed his own house and had it built. And I was just general labor on the job in my early 30s. And I went from there. I did a bit of framing, handed the pipes to the plumber, helped the electrician pull some wire. I stayed on with the siding and soffit guy, so I learned how to snip aluminum, and I fabricate. And then I went into the next year was with a guy in the curling club. Yeah, I'm Canadian. I went. He has a roofing company, and I had a hammer, so he took me on, and I bypassed the grunt work, labor cleaning up. I went right on the roof, and he showed me how to shingle. I was the specialty sheet metal fabricator for doing the counter flashing. I removed existing siding from a wall that we needed to get at the step flashing, and then I would return that same siding as if it had never been moved. So I did all the finesse detail stuff because that's me. I'm finicky that way. But I got into house building. I like Rockwool, fabulous. And last year I graduated certified passive house tradesperson.
Oh, cool.
So I've got that. That's where the connection with Mark Willie is. And Sean
Nice.
Singleton.
I'm hoping to do mine this summer or next year, Peter, for the Master. Yeah.
Good. And I'd like to go to the next course, which is instead of $1,500 for me, it'd be the $2,500 version that is the consultant or the designer on the design computer. And I can do that side of things too. So my foot injury of 14 years ago has sort of made my life a bit different. So, it was icy on a roof in November and I came down. So, yes, in hospital for 4.5 weeks. But anyway, but I've got the experience. So I had to change up. That's why I went back into college to get mechanical engineering. So, I got pushed in different directions for different reasons, but it's all come, I've got a lot of experience, a variety of experience, industrial factory experience, commercial bakery. I can do so many different things. Agriculture, I run heavy equipment, like farm tractors, forklifts, whatever. And I like all that stuff. So this is interesting to be in on this discussion as let's say a bit of an outsider, but it fits well within my interest and experience. And I share some opinions about what, your experiences have been.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's fun. Yeah.
And about any shop class, there's all kinds of shop classes that will put you on any one of those paths too. That's the cool part about all of it. Like, and I said that in my spiel with the Sashko presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the last slides I showed was trade school shop or trade class, shop class. It's every class. Like we've talked about, you got your math, your science, heck, PE, foods. There's always a guy that brings the grill for Friday lunch on the job site that grills up something awesome. Geography, social studies. It can politics. You can, we can put it all in application, man.
Yeah, this is cool. What was I going to say? So Peter, you sound like a lifelong learner. Whether you had the injury or not, it sounds like this is what you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just a sponge. Anything I can learn, I will take it on and be involved in it for a time. What I did for 3.5 years was site supervisor, project coordinator, manager of LED lighting retrofits in institutions. I did 3 hospitals. I've done the Bell Canada Utilities office spaces and their switching stations. So that I looked after. Just LED lights. Okay, I got IES, Illuminating Engineering Society, fundamentals. And anything I can take as a course, I'd like to go back to school. I just need a benefactor. So no, I'd like to continue. Yeah, and lifelong learner is it. I've got bookkeeping. I've done some of that for a grocery store that I used to be a night crew supervisor. So I've done a whole different variety of things in the trades.
Peter, how do we get in touch with you? I got questions, man.
Well,
Are you on Instagram?
As XS_11_. So the word 11. But I don't post much. I observe other people's posts, but
well, then you're fired. That's it.
Well, okay, thanks. And LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn as well as p.h.molinar at Gmail. But right now my thing is to get a job in building passive house. I like that aspect of what Sean and Mark are about and passive house, because that's the thing I was wondering about as a newbie 30 years ago, how do you build things that are better than what's being done? So I was ahead of the time, but I didn't have an avenue for it. Now I've found some place, which is Passive House.
Yeah, that podcast is awesome. That's or that meeting, was there 50 people on there?
Well, today there was 107
Are you serious?
because Sean was presenting. So yeah, here comes Mark. We had 107 people there, Mark.
Mark's back. I didn't
we're
know so many people on your show tonight, Mark.
We tend to, what, Peter? We have, during the show, the number goes up and down, but usually around 120. But when you look at the number at the end, it's usually when you add it all up for the ones that drop out to the ones that came in, we're usually about at 180 on a good night, cumulative.
Yeah.
And the lowest I think we had on construction tech, I think the lowest was actually like 98 for the cumulative.
Yeah.
So it's 85% designers, and then there's people like Peter and myself.
The real builders.
Yep. I'm sorry I missed. That was my boss.
Oh, don't worry. Wow.
I
Yeah,
bet
that's important. Well, we're gonna wrap it up soon anyway.
Yep.
I think
Can you take that thing off the wall behind you? I'll bet that was from Duke. Can we get a close up of that?
Yeah. This thing's awesome. The detail, like the resolution's ridiculous.
Look at the stock you made that on.
Yeah, nice.
Look at the resolution. It's crazy.
Mark, I didn't even have to ship it to him. It was hand delivered.
Yeah, that was fun.
Did you deliver it, Duke, or did Nick?
No, I came down there.
Nah,
Oh, you went over there.
He came up. He came up for a concert. He was 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
Pick up.
I saw the bar. I should have gone to the bar. Were you working on Saturday?
Saturday, yeah. You should have stopped in Saturday.
The stage.
What concert did you go to? Country Joe and the Fish?
Double Trouble.
Double Trouble?
Name of the band.
Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Oh.
It was a jam band. I told Duke, we're gonna go see a jam band. He was like, no thanks.
Thing about a jam band is they start a song at 7 o'clock, at 9:45 it's still playing.
That's it.
And everyone kicks in with the final 4 minutes, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's the same song!" I'm like, "No, it's 40 songs. It's just not a break. These guys are sweating off the 70s."
That's it.
When you stop recording, I'll finish that joke. I just won't finish it on camera. I love it, Duke. I'll tell you what, that's a beautiful. Look at the shadowing. Look at the shadowing of that. I mean, that's also one, it's the design, but you know how to set the depth so it does the right burn and the right grain. It's beautiful, man. That is not easy to pull. That should get an award. That is the Shop Class Logo of the Year award.
Yeah.
No one will beat it. No one will beat it. Someone can make it, out of stupid AI, right? Web3 development. That's a physical thing that you could whack someone in the head with and say it's the best.
That looks like something I made in the graphic arts class, package design for finished art.
Finished art. Can we get coasters made and sell them? So there's a price that covers without it being funny tactics for schools and whatnot. I don't know the confines of rules, but can we sell coasters?
Why not?
Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I want to get a backdrop, and then I think I want to get a T-shirt like Matt. That was cool. And
That
maybe a
student
hat.
build hashtag is so cool.
Yeah, student build is huge.
Yeah, Carmen did the shirts. Wave honey.
Oh, Carmen! Hey, thanks for doing the shirt. That was a huge thing. That was like, boom.
And she was wearing her sparkly silver one and the purple one. So we actually got asked a lot about those. Like people were
Oh, right. She wore a
they
different
wanted to know.
color.
So we definitely have to start getting things on a podcast platform.
Okay. Sorry about that. Right.
Eventually.
I need a deadline. You know,
No,
when
no.
Mark was like, we need the logo this week. I was like,
Before.
all right, that's what's going to happen. I need a deadline. I don't do stuff without deadlines. I'm like, all right, I'll get to it. I got to, you guys hold me to it. Be like, all right. Oh, actually, I looked into, we used to be on Anchor, and the problem is there's a code. I have to get Barbercheck to give me, he's got it. Anyway, it's a whole thing. He's got it on his computer or something. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna get it sorted out. I'm gonna try and do this with him tomorrow. I got time tomorrow.
I thought.
If you look in the chat, I put it.
Go ahead.
If you look in the chat, I put a few things in there. One machinery's handbook that I use for like engineering reference book, and a place to get download step drawings, McMaster Carr.
Oh yeah, drawings.
And that's just industrial supply. That's just really good, wild.
Oh, Master is the best.
Yeah.
Anything on there, you can also get the cat.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what I used to for assembly drawings in the machine class. That's what you get that down. You put it in your Siemens NX8 drawing, and then use it from there and extrude it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very nice. And then also I put my email in there.
Yeah, I
So-
sent you a hello from
Okay,
Shop
good.
Fest Podcast, but I put my email on there too.
Okay, thanks.
Let me check the Shop Fest Podcast one. That's not like
Peter,
Hey,
do
Ron, for
you
editing
get our email
purposes,
do you get our emails from the podcast?
Oh yes, I do.
I was just saying, Ron, for editing purposes, do you want to end the recording
yeah.
so that
Yeah,
we
let's end
don't?
it here. Yeah. All right, Shop Class Podcast. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next week. Next week we got Chris. Let's see. Hold on. We got
Hootie and the Blowfish?
yeah. Chris Giffro, and he's a woodworker in Florida. At Timmy.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. End it right there.